All right, so we got a hire. Little special edition of the locker room. Normally it's at 10:30 during the day. I was working on a video to put out, but now we got the news. Nick Caley, he's going to be the offensive coordinator for C.J. Stroud and company. We've spoken a lot about Caley recently. I think this is my biggest takeaway here is I think this is, first of all, it's the guy that had the most attention and the most options when it comes to potentially being an OC. And also it's a guy that has ties with Nick Caserio from his time in New England. And he also runs the type of offense that DeMeco Ryans claims to like to run. That's my biggest thing is it's not, I don't want to use the word compromise because I think he was the best candidate. If you just lay it out, if you look at the candidates that they actually interviewed, I think he was the most intriguing. I think there's a reason that he was initially the Jets' top option. He said no thanks to them. I think there's a reason that the Patriots wanted to hire him last year in Gerard Mayo. He said no thanks to them or asked for too much money. I think when it comes to the most, I don't want to say popular. I don't know if he's popular, but the move that made the most sense from a football perspective, I think you made that. And then I think when you factor in the connection that he has to both guys. And last time this process went through, I think it was DeMeco Ryans who got to hire Bobby Slowick.
Damn it, Bobby.
And I know that's some low-hanging fruit, but I don't think it was a mistake hiring Bobby Slowick. I think it just didn't work out. I mean, there was no like initial what the hell are they doing type of reaction with Bobby Slowick, but it did fail. It didn't work. And it was DeMeco's vision, DeMeco's buddy, DeMeco's guy, and it didn't work out. So now Nick Caserio, you maintain that same type of a system, offensive system, kind of the pipeline, the McVay pipeline. He's been with McVay since 2023. He's been the tight ends coach and the pass game coordinator, and now he's the offensive coordinator for the Texans. Before that, he was in New England, where he was an offensive assistant from 15 to 16. He was a tight ends coach. He was a tight ends and fullback coach, and then he was a tight ends coach. And he also happens to go to the same high school that Nick Caserio went to, John Carroll. So there used to be kind of a little bit of a reservation, rightfully so, where the Texans were trying to copy the Patriot way, and anyone who had ties to the Patriots had a chance to get hired by the Texans. That's kind of gone. This is not just that. There's a part of it, and I think it's some valuable experience that you don't just dismiss because it hasn't worked, but there's a part of that, and then there's also the McVay connection that everyone wants a part of. So I have no problem with this hire. I think it's a good hire. Jacob on the Super Chat says this is the most exciting OC option in an unexciting OC search. I would agree with that. I was over this search. I didn't like arguing about Brian Johnson, Nixon, Nick Caley, Gerard Johnson. I mean, it just seemed like unnecessary fighting. If you have reservations about Nick Caley, I understand. Some people wanted to hire someone who'd called plays before. I didn't have like a specific layout of what I wanted the experience to look like for the hire that they made. I didn't have a specific layout. Because at some point, Sean McVay hadn't called plays. At some point, Sean Payton hadn't called plays. Like, you can go through all the offense. Like, there was a point where they got the opportunity to call plays. And I don't think Bobby Slowick, the failed Bobby Slowick experience, should be enough to scare you away from hiring someone who coached under Sean McVay, who had all these options, and might not have experience calling plays. So I think it's a fine thing to do. I think it's a good hire. I think it's the best possible hire. There's still possibilities. We don't know what his offense is going to look like. We don't know what he's going to work. I do anticipate that he probably looks at this tight end position. It has to make him sick for a number of reasons. I don't think he's going to put Dalton Schultz in position because he has to have Dalton Schultz on the roster next year, more than likely. I don't think he's going to put Dalton Schultz in position to where he has to go there and block and do what he's worse at. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the Texans made the right hire with Nick Caley. 100% think it was a good hire. And I don't know if you're not down with Nick Caley, then the guy that that you did want, I would like to hear your layout of why him instead of Nick Caley. Because when I went person for person, when I went Gerard Johnson, my pushback would be no, thank you. He was a part of the offensive staff that was an absolute disaster. Not really intrigued by that. Bill Lazor, same thing. Brian Johnson, he had the Philadelphia experience. I don't necessarily hold that against him too bad. He did a good job working in Washington with Cliff Kingsbury. But before he was in Philadelphia, the Eagles were better. And then after he was better, I think Saquon Barkley might have a little bit to say about that. The Nixon thing, I feel like people just kind of got intrigued because it was something that we didn't expect. And you look at what happened at Syracuse. That was just kind of like the hipster portion of this whole thing. But you got the guy that has the ties to Caserio. And let's be honest, it's funny because, and I think around here it's valid and it happens a lot, but you automatically frown upon the New England connections. That's awesome experience to have. It doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. And I think it's cool that this guy who went to New England was able to go learn under Sean McVay for 2 years after that, work with Matthew Stafford, work with what they had with the Rams. I think that's the cool thing about it. The problem with people that work in New England and fail as assistants, I think, is that they copy the wrong things about Bill Belichick. They try to be the real smug, jackass, process, dry type of person instead of copying the good things about him, the game planning and the stuff that happens behind the scenes. Nick Caley, he's worked with McVay. He's worked with Belichick. He's got multiple areas of experience, and I think that's good. And he's worked with Brady. I think that's good. I have no problem that he hasn't called plays. Doesn't really bother me. Wags is asking what the system is going to be. If I sat here and told you what the system was going to be, it would just be guessing. I think until we hear him talk, until we find out what he's going to do, we'll see what he's going to do. Hopefully it's a lot like McVay. Hopefully it's a lot like McVay, which I think the best thing about Sean McVay is he adjusts to his personnel. It's not just plug and play, which is kind of what it started to feel like with Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick wasn't asking Dalton Schultz to do what his strengths were. He wasn't asking Joe Mixon at times to do what his strengths were. He was just kind of plug in and play. I think there'll be some sort of adjustment. I don't know what he's going to do. Some guys get away from like the McVays and they do different things. Some try to copy him. We've never seen him oversee an offense. I'm pretty sure that when he has his press conference, we get a pretty decent idea of what Nick Caley wants to do and how he wants to do it. But yeah, don't know. If anything, this is from D-Dog. If anything, I think there's bigger emphasis on tight end usage in this offense as opposed to how Slowick used the tight ends. If anyone, the tight ends sucked though. Like let's be fair to Bobby Slowick. The tight ends sucked. You know, like it's not like he had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski and was misusing them. The tight end stunk. The wide receiver stunk. The running back depth stunk. And that's the other thing that I think that we need to acknowledge is this is just step one in the process of fixing this offense. This is just step one. I don't understand how anyone could maximize what they were given last year, especially when you factor in the offensive line. So this is just step one. You got to figure it out. Houston Texans talk says that this is a disaster hire and that the Texans fumbled the bag. You can elaborate on that. I'd love to hear it. I don't know, like based on all of the options that they had, I don't know that there was going to be a disaster hire. For the most part, we were talking about inexperienced offensive coordinators. We were talking about guys who'd been in multiple spots. We didn't know what their system was going to be. We didn't know what the players were going to be. I was against a internal hire as opposed to an external hire. But a disaster hire, I don't know. That seems like someone just wants to say something and wants to kind of be a hipster and give some sort of opinion. Because I don't know how you can call this a disaster hire. This is the only option they had that had other options available. This is a guy that comes from the pipeline that everyone really wants to be a part of. He's got valid experience outside of that. A disaster hire seems a little bit dramatic. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Texans talk. You can maybe elaborate on that if you so choose in the chat, but I would need some elaboration on how in the F this is a disaster hire. Swarm into the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Daniel says, what differences would we see between McVay and Shanahan themes? What differences will we see? I think it depends on personnel, which is kind of the system you want. Like ideally, all these offenses, these West Coast offenses, they want to do the same thing. You should be able to adjust based on personnel. That's really like how Sean McVay does that. Whether he has a full strength offensive line or a banged up offensive line, he's not gonna run the exact same style of offense. They're gonna get the ball out a little bit quicker. There does seem to be with McVay a very strong ability to get the most out of running backs in some way, shape, or form, for whatever the reason is. So there's that. I hope that he also values running back depth. That's something that the Patriots valued when he was there, and that's something that the Rams seem to value. Does this hire change draft needs to fit the scheme? I don't think so. Maybe, but that was going to be the case no matter what, because I don't know that the offensive linemen that they have fit this scheme anyways and what they claimed that they wanted to do. I don't know that was the case, but this does not impact the way that the Texans are going to approach it. They need guys on offense, period. They need guys on offense. They need receivers in free agency in the draft. They need tight ends. They need running backs, and they need offensive line. Offense, 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 offense. This is step one. Philosophically, I don't think this changes anything. Slowick was plug and play. That's it. There was nothing different. There was nothing unique about it. Nothing. There was no adjustment. They were running the exact same offense no matter what. A lot of times you would have Nico Collins or Joe Mixon have to save all butts. There wasn't some sort of change. There wasn't some sort of magical game plan. At no point during the entire Slowick experience did I really feel. There were a couple of times, I will give him, where I think in the playoff game, and fortunately for him, the defense gave him the opportunity, but he did abandon the run at the right time. But there were times where he was trying to run it too much, trying to pass it. Very, very little did I come out saying, man, that was a really good game plan by Slowick. I've come out and said that wasn't as bad. And I've seen CJ save all butts, but not very often did I come away saying, wow, that was a hell of a game plan. But to answer your question, yeah, I don't think that this impacts draft needs or anything like that. I don't think it impacts that. So we'll see what Nick Caley's got. I think that this is 100% the right hire. I don't care about calling plays before or anything like that. This is the right one. It's good for Nick. It's good for D'Amico. Hopefully it's good for CJ. CJ can figure it out. CJ can figure it out. We'll see how it looks, but CJ will be able to figure it out. You don't worry about let's not change the offensive scheme. What if the offense sucked? I always use this example. It's like a college preview edition. Remember when you used to go to the store, you get the college preview, you look at, wow, this team's returning 20 of 22 starters. They went 1-12. Like, we don't need to bring back familiarity with this scheme, all that crap. No, thank you. I don't need that. Do you think we trade Davis Mills based on the new OC? No. Why would that happen? Hell of a backup. Absolutely not. Wouldn't do that. Wouldn't do that at all. Big fan of this hire. The offensive line, don't know. The receivers, don't know. Who is Nick Caley? Nick Caley is a guy who went to John Carroll. He coached at the college level. Then he went to New England, worked with Caserio, and he's worked with Sean McVay the last couple of years. Could have been the OC for Gerard Mayo in New England. Now, when he turned this job down, let's be clear. First of all, he might have had the foresight to know this Gerard Mayo guy is not here for long. So there could have been that. He also was kind of in New England when they were actually good. So he was kind of seeing the dumpster fire. and perhaps wanted to escape that. But the other thing is, and I think this is important, they didn't have Drake May yet. So when he was at New England from 2015 to 2016, he won 2 Super Bowls. They did not have Drake May yet. So he basically turned down the opportunity to work with Jacoby Brissett for his first time as an OC. Can you blame him? You probably couldn't even blame him if they did have Drake. But what does he do from there? He gets hired by Sean McVay, kind of becomes one of Sean McVay's right-hand men, gets other opportunities to interview for OC gigs, turns down the Jets, and here you go. So we'll see what direction that goes. Kevin Smith, glad we finally made a decision. Don't know much about Caley, but I'm going to reserve judgment on this until I see how the draft goes and the decisions we make personnel and as coaches. I think that's a smart decision. I'm not sitting here saying that this is like some sort of home run hire. I think it's the hire that makes the most sense from the options they had. It's something that other teams probably would have liked to have done. Tampa Bay was entertaining the possibility. They ended up going internal. Don't know whether he turned it down or not. But this is the only guy. Now, there's other guys who've been offensive coordinators before. Brian Johnson, Nixon. Those guys have been offensive coordinators before, but nobody was really entertaining the possibility of them being their OC in this hiring cycle. This is the only guy who any other organization, one that made the playoffs in Tampa Bay, another one that just hired one of the most respected defensive coaches in Aaron Glenn, that they were interested in. So this is the only one. But yes, the personnel thing is a big thing. They got to figure out. Is there a press conference scheduled? They haven't said yet. We won't know. They'll probably send an email. They probably send the email making it official, but they'll probably send an email and let us know. Let us know what the deal is with the Caley thing. Still haven't gotten anything there. Don't know what the staff's going to be. Does he bring back Gerard Johnson? Maybe one of these guys that he interviewed. Maybe they interviewed him and they like him and they want to bring him in. What does his pipeline look like? I would assume that Jake Moreland, the tight end coach, he'd probably want to let him go. Probably want to let him go. That would probably be a smart move. Didn't really like what I saw from the tight ends last year. So I'd assume maybe Moreland's gone. Don't know. Does he want to bring back Gerard Johnson? Don't know. How connected is he? Go back to the New England to here. How connected is he? What kind of staff can he put together? Is he going to be open to bringing in other guys? That's going to be important too. Personnel-wise, if you look at the appeal of this from Caley, why Nick Caley? From the Texans' perspective, we've laid that out. From his perspective, you're working with one of the best young QBs in the league, and we can talk about regression. We can talk about getting worse. We can talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to the Nick Caley situation. But the reality is that he gets to work with C.J. Stroud. He gets to work with one of the better young receivers in the NFL, Nico Collins, and he has Joe Mixon. Jets, they have some talent. They don't have the quarterback. Baker Mayfield's good. He's gotten his last 2 OCs head coach gigs. But there's not as much appeal as working with C.J. Stroud. Whatever happened last year, whether you think it was regression, whether you think he got worse, it doesn't matter. It can actually make him better this year. He can learn from it. He can grow on it. He can expand on it. So it's really an appealing job for Nick Caley. Like what better OC opportunity are you going to get than this? Weak division. decent talent offense to build around. A clear focus on the offensive side of the ball. There's not any like glaring needs on defense. There's some needs. It's not glaring. The most expensive prime stuff that you need, you feel great about. Your cornerbacks, your ends. You got a young safety. You got some youth at linebacker. D-line, you feel good. Maybe you can figure out a little something in the interior, but you don't have like any pressing needs on offense. So on defense. So if Nick Caley comes in here, okay, you don't need a quarterback. You have a number one wide receiver. Wide receiver room after that, a little bit rough. But you got something to work with. And you have the clear understanding, you have the clear grasp that Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans are probably going to focus on the offensive side of the rock. So it's appealing. It's appealing. I think Nick just summarized it. Weak division, have the QB, and you get to build pretty much from the ground up offensively. Nailed it. What are the reservations about Nick Caley? I do think this is the right hire. What are the reservations about Nick Caley? Well, he's never called plays before. That's the most popular thing you hear is he's never called plays before. He's never been an offensive coordinator. I don't care about that. Some people do. I don't care about that. At some point, guys get their first experience, and at some point, sometimes those guys look phenomenal. Ben Johnson with the Lions. What if Dan Campbell had said, "Man, you know what? I like this Ben Johnson guy, but you know what? He's never called plays, man." He was also a tight end coach, by the way. He was a tight end coach before, just kind of like Caley. Then he was a passing game coordinator, receiver coach, all that. 2022, when Dan Campbell's looking for an OC. What if he had said when it came to Ben Johnson, you know, I like this guy. I like his makeup. But you know what? He's never called plays. We got to pass on that. At some point, you got to figure that out. Some point, you got to figure that out. I like Caley. I would like Mike Munchak as the O-line coach. Goodness gracious. There's some names that just won't go away. Kubiak, Munchak. Oh, my gosh. There's a lot there. Major Payne bringing up the Bobby Slowick.
Damn it, Bobby.
Experience. I just think back to everyone thinking Slowick was the next big coach in the pipeline. And now it's Caley. Fair. 100% fair. Although I don't know that the Bobby Slowick hire didn't work and it was obviously a failure. But I don't know that he was like the next big thing. I think McDaniel was. Like Mike McDaniel had been with Shanahan longer than anyone. And let's be honest, when you made the Slowick hire, Mike McDaniel was kind of like the popular guy. And you were kind of trying to get at that pipeline. But I don't know that Slowick was like overly popular. I think he was just next in line. And it was one of those copycat things, if we're being honest. You had LaFleur go to the Jets in that role. And then you had Mike McDaniel go to the Dolphins in that role. And then Bobby Slowick had that role, which they kind of have a run game coordinator and a passing coordinator, and Kyle Shanahan's calling the plays. And then Bobby Slowick just happened to be next, and you went with Bobby. But I don't know that he was like,
damn it, Bobby,
the chosen one. I'm not critical of the hire then or now. Regardless, I could understand the line of thinking. But I don't think that Bobby Slowick had near the attention that Nick Caley has gotten. I don't remember him turning down offensive coordinator gigs. I don't remember him quite being selective, like being able to be selective like him. So I don't think that I would say that it's the same. I guess you can say it's from that pipeline. So maybe they're trying to copy that. I don't know. I don't know what his offense is going to be. We don't know. We'll figure it out. I think we have a decent idea. But I don't know that him and Slowick are like the exact same type of thing. Don't think that went. Jason Delgado, there's some names that will never go away, but for some reason, he brings up Josh McCown every chance he gets. I like Josh McCown. I think Josh McCown's going to be a good coach. What do you mean for some reason? He's a popular name right now. Yeah, I don't. It's not like out of nowhere. Big Josh Slowick guy. Yeah, the numbers are crazy. I think I'm 500 deep. Stutz is about 550, and Stutz has been all over this. So we're both live. We'll be live together at about. We'll be live together probably at about 4 o'clock. But yeah, Stutz is 679 deep. He's even deeper. We're 500 here. But at 4 o'clock, we'll be on the same thing. So we'll see how this whole thing goes. It's going to be nice. I guess Seth is live as well. Yeah. Everyone can get numbers at the same time, except the actual radio station. But yeah, it's, you know who you want to hear from when the coach is hired. Myself, Stutz, Seth. It's a good trio right there. You're basically channel surfing. 10:30, we'll be live right here. 4 o'clock as well. Who would the Texans have hired had it not been Caley? I'm hoping that Gerard Johnson wasn't a real option. That would be a tough one for me. I don't think that would have been a tough sell. That would have been the ultimate wait and see. I would have. I like Gerard personally. Look, if I had no shame, like knowing Gerard a little bit personally, getting to know him, I would have been sitting here telling you, "Hey, hire Gerard." Can't do that. I watch the team. I cover the team. Can't do that. So if they would have gone Gerard, I think it would have been the most concerning thing. I also think it would have been the most damning thing for D'Amico and Caserio. If this Nick Caley thing doesn't work, it's just another example of a team not making the right hired offensive coordinator. It's probably a hard thing to do, to find the right offensive coordinator based on everything we've talked about. Some people get lazy and they hire the guy that's just called plays. Some people think there's potential that a guy can call plays. He's not capable of overseeing an offense. But if the Nick Caley thing doesn't work, I don't think it's like the worst thing. You got the most popular guy. You got the guy with ties to the organization. You got the guy that came from the organization that Caserio was at, and the organization that everyone wants to duplicate. The Gerard thing would have been crazy. It would have been. It just would have been. It would have been a disaster. Gerard has risen very high very quickly from when he came into coaching. 2017, then he took some time off, then he went to Colts, and he was with the Vikings, and all of a sudden he's a QB coach. Then, there's a lot going on. Probably slow down a little bit for him. Maybe he stays here. Who knows? Maybe they like him. Maybe that's some sort of compromise. Wouldn't shock me. But as far as being the offensive coordinator, don't see it. Now, how does he take that? I doubt it would be the first time. Maybe he wants to get a clean slate and figure something out. I don't know. I don't know how you handle that. You don't get the promotion. You stay within the company. I'm sure that happens a lot in the real world. I just didn't watch CJ Stroud last year and say, man, this is the things that a quarterback coach focuses on look a lot better. Now, I didn't watch it and immediately say it's the quarterback coach's fault. Probably a lot of stuff in front of him, a lot of stuff to the side that we've talked about, but I didn't watch that. So which route would they have gone? Hopefully external. We'll never have to know. What now? What do the Texans do? So from here, There might be a press conference. There might not. Don't know. The other thing about this is it comes the week of the combine. The combine's 3 weeks from today. Myself and Cody Stutes will be there. SNL. We got you covered at the combine. So I'm imagining he's just crunching tape. He's figuring out what the hell he thinks about the guys that are here right now, how he's going to make do with that. And he's crunching tape, which he's probably been doing anyways, whether he was the Rams guy or not. Whether he was with the Rams or with the Texans. So he's probably pretty well informed of what he likes and what he doesn't. Now he basically gets to call the shots, probably answering to Sean McVay with the Rams. Now he gets to probably call the shots. They probably lean his way when it comes to the offense. He probably gets with CJ, asks him what he wants to do, and then he'll be at the combine in 3 weeks. We'll get to talk to him probably one-on-one. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes. We don't know how much Gerard had in the game plan, so he never got a chance to call it how he saw it. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. But my question is this. I'm not assuming that Gerard Johnson wouldn't be a good offensive coordinator based on his quarterback coaching. I don't know that. Like none of us, we don't know if Caley will be a good play caller. What I'm saying is, did Chris Strausser have a say in the game plan, the offensive line coach? He sucked, right? He was terrible, right? We thought he was terrible, right? He was bad. Yeah. Okay. Like the tight end coach, do you think Jake Moreland did an awesome job last year based on what you saw? Not that great, right? So what did Gerard do last year? Was he like keeping secrets, like mysterious, like magical game plans? That's my whole point. That's my whole point with the whole thing. Who the O-line coach is, who knows? There's talk that it could be Popovich, the assistant O-line coach. Don't know. Cooper Kupp, probably a possibility. He's probably going to get cut. Deebo Samuel, probably going to get cut. Metcalf, Lockett, like look out for all these guys. And then you still draft someone. Ibuka, 25 would be heaven for me. Don't threaten me with a good time there. CJ Stroud gets his Ohio State connection. You still have vets. I think you need to sign guys. I think you need to bring in guys. You need to be open to it. Cooper Kupp, a little bit washed. Okay, he's a better Robert Woods. Probably better than Stephon Diggs at this point, too. They got two pretty good slot receivers that they like that are young, that are on rookie deals. They got Puka, and then they got Whittington. So I wouldn't dismiss the possibility of Cooper Kupp. I also think CJ Stroud needs a consistent intermediate passing option. Whether the tight end roles expand or Cooper Kupp is kind of like that guy. I think Cooper Kupp will be able to work the slot for the next 4 years. Is he going to do it at a Super Bowl MVP caliber level? No. Are you going to say he's washed, or some people are going to say he's washed? He's not what he once was? Yes. Has he gotten hurt? Yes. But yeah, I could see Cooper Kupp ending up here if he is gone from the Rams. I don't see why the Rams wouldn't try to get out of that with how good Puka is at this point. No issue with that. DeAndre Hopkins, no thanks. I'm good on that. Yeah, Cody's suggesting basically just bringing anything that has touched the Rams, which you can have worse ideas. But yeah, I think usually whenever you see these guys, a lot of times they bring over guys that they're familiar with from their old spot that know the system and all that. They kind of did that with Robert Woods, although it wasn't the exact system. That was a big part of this. Now, if it is going to be kind of similar to the system, I don't know that you need that. I do wonder what he thinks of like John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. There's no way he looks at that and says, all right, I can really, really do something with this. So they got to figure it out. Don't know what style he's going to bring. Maybe he'll tell us. We'll figure it out. We have a decent idea of the pipeline he comes from and all that type of stuff. Sam from New England checking in. Shout out to you, my friend. What's the weather like in New England right now? T. Higgins, probably too expensive. I like Matthew Golden fine. I like Ibuka better. Combine's going to be interesting. But we asked for it yesterday. We said, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. It stopped. And I'll be damned, Nick Caley. He is the Texans OC. We'll react to this on SNL Live. Cody Stutes is live right now. He's been all over this. To the credit of Cody Stutes, he had a list of 30 guys near the end of the season. He broke this down. He's been all over it. Look forward to talking to him. SNL, go to Spotify, Apple, all that. Subscribe to SNL, big time growing podcast. Since the beginning of the season, most popular Texans podcast, and also the channel SNL with myself and Stutes. Texans finally hire an offensive coordinator. Now the fun begins. A lot of questions, a lot of answers. I think they made the right choice. The other options, very, very blah. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together, whether they make a decision or they don't. Today they did.